Right, hello everyone, just another lesson for when one of us is not here. Squaring up or using a gridding a picture is a really good technique when you're lacking confidence to get started. Just as a basic, we're all going to do the same one, but the extension test today is to get any picture that you can find and to use the exact same technique. So you're going to go from copying this technique to applying this technique to a new picture. It might be that this is quite a complex picture, this is why we've picked it, that this takes you the whole lesson. And if you do a good job and you get all of these little details correct, then that's fine. I'm quite happy with that. But the reason for learning this technique is because it's useful anytime you've got to draw from a picture and you're struggling in confidence. So what you can see is we've got a smaller picture here labelled across the horizontal x-axis. We've got the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, and then in the bigger grid we've got the exact same. Coming down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, bigger grid underneath exactly the same. So there's a lot of judging proportions within this. There's obviously finding the right grid square as you draw, but there's a lot of judging proportions. What looks about halfway, what looks about 2/3 of the way through that square. So I'll give you an example. If we were to draw the tiger's right eye here, it's not, that pupil doesn't cross the halfway line, it crosses about 2/3, so 2/3 of the way through that box. So let's go find E1, not halfway, about 2/3, so I reckon that's exactly where the tiger's pupil has got to be. Now we come up into this box and we cross that line about there. Now one bit of advice I give always when I'm teaching drawing is to press lightly first and then correct as you go. So you will get things wrong, and I get things wrong. I'm pressing a little bit harder because I want it to show up well on the video. But the truth is that if I were drawing this for myself, I would be pressing lightly, expecting to get it wrong, and then having to compare as I go. That is how we draw, we refine. So if we judge this one now, it comes quite straight and then curves horizontal again, and then back down quite sharply. So let's plot the tiger's other eye in. We're looking for C1 and the pupil just to the right and above halfway. So if we were to cut that box into 4, it's in the top left quadrant. So C1, I'm just drawing them really lightly. I don't want you to draw them this hard. So we're in the top left quadrant there. That's where that pupil's going. Start to plot the nose. Again, let's cut it into 4. Oh, that's useful. That curve just touches that one and just touches there. So 3B, let's cut it into 4. I'd say that's about 1/8. So C3, quarters, 1/8. That's where that nose ends. That line just lines up with the bottom of 3. We come gradually up and we don't cross through that top of 5. We don't cross through until right near the end of E. So there. And then as it curves up, it doesn't hit the top of line 4. You see that there? Doesn't hit the top of line 4. So we need to make sure ours does the same. So I think that's about all the demonstration you need on this one. It's quite a straightforward technique, but it's about cutting it into smaller sections when you're doing something complex, and it's about judging proportions, just as you heard me do. I think that's about halfway through. I think that's about 2/3 of the way through. That one is just higher than that bit. If you can make those sorts of comparative observations as you draw, it will help you get things the right size in relation to the other parts of the drawing. And that comparative approach to drawing is how you get more accurate over time. So, I'm looking for this finished by the end of the lesson. Absolute best job that you can do. Do not rush, because look at all of these tiny details. If you're finishing it in 10 minutes, you haven't looked close enough at any of those details. And I would encourage you just to take a rubber and increase your level of observation. If you have genuinely done your best, and when you have a compare and maybe you ask your neighbour and they can't find anything that's wrong either, then you can find a new picture and do the same technique. So put some grids over the top. You could just do 2 centimetre square grids, use a ruler, and then make sure you get the same number. So the same number across, there's 6 here, but then there's only 5 coming vertically, there's only 5 here. Make sure you get the same number, but try and do it slightly bigger. So if it's 2 centimetre square here, try doing it 5 centimetre square over here. So it's about enlarging. But I think this technique is useful any time that you're struggling to start a drawing from a photograph. Obviously you can't draw a grid over real life, but if you're drawing from a photograph, this is a really useful technique.